Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? Thank you very much for joining us. It's 2:30, lovely sunny day. So thank you very much for jumping in. We're just going to give everyone 10, 15, 20 seconds or so to get joined in, and hopefully we're going to have a relatively fun afternoon looking at PowerPoint, OneNote and Planner. Might be two names that you've not heard of before there, OneNote and Planner. If you did join me for the last time we did this series, we went at quite a pace. So and we covered lots and lots of pieces. It's going to be similar today, so don't worry too much about keeping up. We are going to record this, put it out on YouTube, and hopefully you'll be able to go and find that and follow along. So hopefully you sit back, settle in, and enjoy. So agenda for today, then we're going to talk about, as I mentioned, PowerPoint. So I'm sure lots of you use PowerPoint already. And we're going to kind of, again, with all these things, I've said lots of times when we do our webinars, we're going to start fairly basic and we're just going to build on it every couple of weeks. We're going to layer in something new, something more exciting about it, and throwing you some new ideas, things to go and try out. So PowerPoint, I'm sure lots of you use it, but there's also a lot of people that don't use PowerPoint in their day-to-day lives and jobs and careers, etc., etc. I imagine if you're in a sales capacity, you use lots of PowerPoint, I'd imagine. Maybe if you're in other parts of the business, you don't so much. So another technology we're going to introduce today is Planner. So again, some of you may have used Planner, but a lot of you probably don't know what Planner is potentially. So we're going to introduce you to that and what Planner does. It's kind of a middle of the range project management. I like to call it a task management thing rather than a project management thing. And also OneNote, which is kind of a digital notebook. So it allows you to store an unlimited number of notes, massive unlimited canvases, throw all sorts of digital material and media on there, use it as a bit of a scrapbook. And we're going to go into a little bit of what we can do with OneNote. And then again, over the next few weeks, we're going to build on these platforms and show you more and more exciting things. But hopefully you get some value out today. Obviously, at the end, we'll tell you where you can learn more. Surprise, we're one of the places you can learn more, but obviously there are other places you can go and you can find out. And then we'll have some time at the end for questions if anybody's got any. So without hanging around then, let's what's the time? Yeah, we're a few minutes in. So let's jump into PowerPoint and let's actually get underway with some of the demos that we're going to show you. The format of this is just kind of lots of videos that I've recorded, and I'm just going to talk you through some of the little bits and pieces we can do. So they'll start basic, they'll get a bit more interesting. So don't freak out when I start drawing a circle on the first slide and everyone goes, is that it? Okay, it does get more interesting, I promise. So there's a few things we're going to go through. So transitions, animations, how to draw perfect shapes, how to put timers on in your PowerPoint slides, merging shapes together, stock images, if you may or may not know, be aware that they exist. How to align items. I'm sure many of you sit there kind of like trying to make two boxes exactly the same height and, you know, and get it all kind of in line. So we're going to cover how to do that quickly. Shortcut keys when you're in presentation mode. What the designer is, used to be called design ideas. How to use templating, which was really was quite popular when we did this about words. Lots of people came back and said, oh, actually, it was really useful to understand what, how to create a template in Word. So similar sort of thing in PowerPoint. How to do screen recordings, how to grab everything on your desktop and kind of stick it into a slide. And actually, as I use this, as I go through these slides, all the screen recordings that I'm going to show you, I've actually filmed through PowerPoint. So, and then lastly, how to use your webcam and embed yourself on your PowerPoint slide. Okay. So let's get underway then. Very, very interesting. To start with, let's start with the boring shape, right? We have lots of things in PowerPoint where we use transitions. And what I want to show you is the morph transition. So I've started with a slide here. I've created a blank slide, drawn a box on it, and I've duplicated it. Now, what I'm going to do is spin in the second slide, spin it around and move it to the right-hand side. And what I'm looking for is a transition where it moves. This is typical at the moment. It just, one slide, it's there as a block. The other slide, it just appears as a block down there. We've not got any animation, no transition. So I go to transitions and I choose morph, and I put a morph transition on both of my slides. And what happens now is it does that. Okay, when you actually play it, it will spin. It will start at the top slide and it will spin down to the second. So you can see that that is a morph transition. The reason that works is because the first slide, I created the item and then I duplicated it. So it knows exactly it's the same object in the second slide. Wherever I move it now, PowerPoint will morph its position and it will kind of make it slide along. Why is that useful? We've seen lots of transitions. I'm sure many of you where the curtains fold in, it dissolves away. This is no different. It's just a morph transition. Really useful when you're trying to explain a story within your PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so Maybe you want a particular item on your PowerPoint slide to slide to a particular location in another bubble or in another box to show that it's being moved as part of a journey, maybe. Also, when you think about actually taking people on a journey through your PowerPoint slide, it's much more interesting having the same items kind of repeat and move their position and continue to tell a story rather than just appearing, then another slide disappearing and another slide appearing, and it's all just very static and boring. Very engaging way of keeping your audiences up to speed. So that's great. That's how we take one object, spin it around and move it. But you can get more clever with a morph transition. You can also do an advanced morph transition. Okay, so the next next example we're going to show you is I want it to do that same spin, but the last slide, I want it to turn itself into a circle. So I'm going to create another slide on the end, and this time I'm going to draw a circle into it. So we go away, we draw a circle. Not quite a perfect circle, but we'll come to that in a minute. And what we can see this time is effectively I'm going to apply that morph transition, no problem at all. And when we watch it now, what's going to happen is it's going to morph the first one. But now, because I created a new object, it just disappears and shows me a circle. There's no transition from being a rectangle into being a circle. So to get around that, we have to go and use something called the selection pane. So we go to Home, Select, and Selection pane. And this will show us all the items and their names. To do an advanced morph, we use a special thing. We rename the shape. We go exclamation mark, exclamation mark. That's the key bit. And then we give it a name afterwards. So I've called it shape 1. I then go to the other slide and I choose the new object I want it to morph into and I give it the same name. So now it thinks it's the same object. That's key. So when I show it now, what's going to happen? Oh, we've got a break there. We'll come back to that. What's going to happen now is it's going to morph into the circle. Okay, so interesting, really kind of engaging. The reason it broke the first one is I've renamed the second slide and the third slide, but not the first slide. So it thinks it's a different object. So I've got to go and rename that item all the way through my deck so that it works across all of them. Now I've renamed it. We should see it spins around, does its morph like that, and then we spin it again and it morphs into a circle. So really, really powerful. And for those of you that are kind of into animations and you've seen PowerPoint slides with things sliding in and buzzing around and all that kind of stuff, yes, you can do a lot of this stuff through animations, but actually that morph transition eases that and makes it a lot easier. Just give things the same name and they just magically kind of turn into each other. So whilst it's really boring because we've got a white slide with a couple of circles and rectangles on it, use your imagination. Where can you go with that, and how can you make your presentations much more engaging and a bit more and ultimately rich, if that makes sense. So that's transition animations. We're going to go on to perfect shapes. This might be really simple, okay? So I apologize, but some people I talk to aren't aware of this one. But if I wanted to create a circle or a square, all right, how do I know it's always square? How do I know it's exactly circle? If I just draw a circle, you can see that it can be any size. It becomes oval very, very quickly. If I hold down the shift key on my keyboard, what happens is that it snaps into being the perfect aspect ratio, right? So all the time I've got the shift key held down, it will lock it into being a perfect circle. And the same thing happens for a square or any other object that I use. The aspect ratio gets locked and it allows me to create a perfect size. I'm sure many of you are aware of that one, but for those of you that haven't seen that, that's how you do it. Okay, hold shift down. Timing, right? So great one for maybe you've got a presentation, you're doing a talk, you're in a school, and at some point you want to break in the middle of your presentation and kind of go and put a timer up. Well, you can use add-ins on the homepage. There's an option called add-ins. These are third-party apps and bits and pieces, and you can see that I've just searched for timer. There's loads of them in there. I like break time, and you can throw in a third-party app. This is a timer. All right, I'm going to change this to 12 minutes. So maybe I'm halfway through a presentation. We're going to have a break in the middle. There's an activity, something like that. I want there to be a 12-minute break whilst we go off and do an activity. Think about its use inside the education system. Brilliant if you've got set tasks for the students to go away and do. They've got 12 minutes, go off and do that task. You can set a timer inside your thing, and that will just sit there counting down, okay? And when the 12 minutes goes, boom, we all jump back into the presentation and carry on again. Really good for like remote kind of meetings as well. If you're using Teams, you know, break people out to breakout rooms, things like that, then obviously you can set a timer around that stuff anyway. But ultimately, if you want to engage people around your PowerPoint slide, put a timer up for 12 minutes or however long you want it to put it up for, and it will just continue to count down. Okay, keep going. So you can see the pace we're going at. Again, for those of you that have joined us in the last sort of minute or so, We are going to go quite quickly. Don't worry if you can't keep up, because we are going to record this. We are going to put it online. You can go back and watch everything again if you want to. All right. Hopefully, it's just sparked some ideas within you to go away and play in some of these products. Merge shapes. So what do we mean by merge shapes? This is about combining different shapes to get a different shape. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to draw a circle. Was a perfect circle, held shift. I'm also going to put a square over the top of it. And the key thing we're trying to do here is that we're going to overlap it. So I'm going to draw a square. I'm going to put it somewhere roughly over the top of it for the minute. That's not really a problem. But what I'm looking for is I want to be able to sort of like cut away part of it. I want to change the way it looks. Maybe I want to join them together. And I do that by selecting both my shapes, going up to shape format, and going over to merge shapes. And you can see we've got a few options there. We've got union, combine, fragment, intersect, and subtract. And as I hover over each of these things, you can see what it's doing to those combined and merged shapes. I'm going to choose fragment. And what that means is it splits out everywhere there's a line. So I've now got 3 bits to my diagram, to my picture. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of that one, and effectively I've just cut a pie chart. So for my presentation, maybe I've got a financial presentation to do. I want to draw a little picture of a pie chart. I could go online, find a picture of a pie chart, but it's actually really easy just to do that, wasn't it? Change the color, cut part of it out, move it out, and it looks like a kind of a financial pie chart. So unions, basically join things together. You can look at the intersect, where effectively only just gives you the shape where the 2 items overlap each other. Fragment breaks it apart wherever the item overlaps each other. So you can get quite creative with the types of shape you're going to end up using inside your slide deck. Now, this isn't a fully featured image editing application, but ultimately it's great. Actually, it's not half bad at doing some of the basic things that we might need in our business needs. So combining shapes, there you go. Stock images. So again, you're probably aware that you can put pictures in, right, to PowerPoint. I'm sure everyone's aware of that, but there is some really rich imagery and rich clip art. We will maybe remember the days of clip art. It's come on quite a bit now, but if we go and insert pictures and stock images, you'll find there's a whole library of really rich media baked into PowerPoint you can use within your presentations. It will give you lots of ideas. We can search it. We're going at pace, so please go and explore that yourselves to some degree. But you've got icons and cut out people and all sorts at the top. I just want a kind of a visually appealing wallpaper maybe. So I've typed in abstract and just a bunch of abstract pictures. Work in the tech world. It'd be wrong of me not to have a picture of flashing lights zipping down a wire somewhere. So there we go. I've picked that. I'm going to stretch the image out. Perhaps I'm going to make it the background by sending to back. And I've created a fairly rich looking background wallpaper for my environment. All right. My marketing team are going to go mad because it's not in line with my company branding and all that kind of stuff. But actually, if I just need to throw something together, it creates a really rich, nice image. Okay. Obviously, it's worth saying for larger corporate environments, obviously you may not be allowed to use that stock imagery. You may be restricted to the imagery that your marketing department provide you. If that isn't the case, then obviously you're to some degree free to go and use these stock images. Right, aligning items. This is actually really handy. Okay, and a lot of people aren't aware that it's there. How often do you go into a PowerPoint deck and you draw a bunch of boxes, right? And then you sit there for 5 minutes trying to get the top box in line with the other box and make sure they're all even. Because when you put that PowerPoint slide up and it's blown up 5 times bigger than you can see it on your screen, and one of those boxes is half a centimetre higher than the other, trust me, everyone in the room is looking at it, all right, going, oh, that box is out, it's throwing me, it's distracting me. So aligning items is really, really important, actually. So how do you do that? Right, what we're going to do, we're going to draw a load of boxes. So one, I'm going to speed this up by just copying that box. Okay, so I'm just going to copy a few out. As you can see, they're not very in line with each other, but I want to make sure they're all at the same height and they're all sort of evenly distributed. We do that by selecting all the items we want to align, and we go to shape format, and then we go over to align, and we start with align top, and instantly they're all the same alignment at the top. Then we can distribute horizontally, and now they're all evenly spaced. Okay, so suddenly my deck, my slide is not going to trigger anybody. Nobody's going to get upset that one of the boxes is slightly out and a bit weird. Lots of people lots of people don't know about, is the truth. So, but actually, yeah, everybody goes, oh, okay, yeah, I get why that's useful. All right, so use the align option to make sure your items, it's not just shapes, it will work on blocks of text, on images, anything that you put in your PowerPoint slide, you can start to align this stuff together. Shortcut keys. So when you are in a presentation, so I've got shortcut keys, I'm going to jump into presentation view. So I'm going to hit and play my slide deck. If you press F1, you will get that menu there. Okay, and inside that menu, a whole bunch of shortcut keys for different things you can do. Sliding forward, moving a slide forward, moving a slide back, kind of doing stuff with your laser pointer, potentially turning that on and off, playing a video, rewinding a video, all the bits and pieces you might need. Again, in the interests of time, encourage you, fire up PowerPoint, go into presenting mode and press F1, and you'll see the various keyboard shortcuts and commands that you can use within that to make yourself make it a bit quicker. So you don't have to keep dropping out of presenter view to then go back a slide and go back into presenter view and things like that. Makes it a bit more streamlined. Designer. So this used to be called design ideas. So what I've got here is a really boring slide, okay, with a couple of bits on there about, will anybody like our motorbike? There's a theme here about motorbikes. How can we make it look better? What can we sell it for? If I go across the top in the ribbon, there's something called designer, and you can see it's going to throw up lots of different designs that might make this slide look a bit more engaging. And it's a little bit clever as well because it's worked out I'm talking about bikes or motorbikes. So I clicked on a few here. You can see we've got some sort of clip art of a bike, but I want something a bit more engaging. So it's thrown up and suggested a photo of a tyre, the back of the motorbike there for me. And instantly we're in a situation where actually the page is a bit visually more interesting. It might have taken me 10 minutes to make that myself because I'm not an artist. So ultimately that's put it in the right place. But there's a lot of clever stuff going on behind the scenes there. If I use lots of text in there, if I use bits and pieces in there, it will start to work out what I'm trying to, what's the gist of the slide, all right? So we said the word motorbike, which is why it's returning motorbikes. If we started saying think and we started talking about money or we started talking about anything like that, might start to suggest ideas around clip art to do with coins in a stack. It might come up with a cloud for thinking and things like that. So lots of clever stuff going on inside Designer, but it's also making sure that the text is legible. It's not putting the wrong color on the wrong background, making sure it's readable for people that potentially have visual impairments, bits and pieces like that, so that it's trying to make your slide as accessible as it possibly can be. So very cool tool, great for getting you started. Again, obviously it overtakes the entire layout of your slide. So, so again, going back to that point about larger organizations which have a very sort of fixed marketing piece and guidelines and guardrails that you have to use, design is not going to abide by those. It's going to throw something together that looks really sort of visually rich and engaging, but it's probably going to break all of your marketing rules if you do have a marketing department. So, so bear that in mind. It's great for getting something up and running. Brilliant layout. You can then go in and tweak it and change that picture, maybe do bits and pieces like that. But it's not kind of templated. It's not solid into your business's kind of lines around what you can and can't do with marketing. Unlike actually creating a PowerPoint marketing template. So, so within our business, I'm going to show you ours. Our marketing team. So Sam has created a fixed PowerPoint template that we use within all of our slides that we use whenever we go out and see customers. And you can see that when I create a new one, it's an option for me within my templates. And you can see that I've got a bunch of slides in my blank template when I create a new one. They're all hidden. They've got little lines through them, which means they can't be seen in my slide deck. But as I go into some of those hidden things, there's assets in there that I can copy and reuse in other tiles and other slides. But also when I actually go and create a new slide, it's not a blank slide. I get a bunch of different layouts that I'm allowed to use within our PowerPoint slide deck. Okay, so you can see at the bottom, we've got our tailor-made swoosh. That's what, because it's built on this deck we're showing you is built on that. But I can choose a bunch of different layouts here. We've got something that's a bit more engaging. There's bits with text. I could create another slide that's got call outs on it. And this is the form that I must abide by because it's in line with our company branding and in line with our company ethos, right? I can go in and change all the text. I can go in and change all the areas, and I can click to add sections in. And I've got a certain amount of freedom, but I can't change the whole tile and its layout and how it behaves. So, as I show you here, like we can create a box, and one of the key things is if I create a new box, it sticks with our company color guide, right? So I create a new box. Sam's configured it, so it'll always come out with some of our company branding. I can change those colors, But the top palette, again, is all of our company colors. I can go to the standard colors, but by default, I'm pushed towards my company guidelines and between my company branding, okay? So a really important thing and a big difference between spinning up a PowerPoint slide, everybody in your team creating PowerPoint slides using Designer and everything looking inconsistent versus maybe that more commercial outlook where you've got your company guardrails, your marketing team say you're allowed to do X, Y, and Z, and this is the message that we're trying to get across. This is our voice, and it's important to follow that. So that's why templating, similar to if you joined me for the last one, we talked about word templating. It's the same place. When you go to File, New, you'll see kind of templates, and you'll go to your company, and underneath it, there'll be a bunch of templates that you can go and pick from. You need to create them first, obviously. So, very good. Right, screen recording. You might have noticed as I've gone through this, at the end of each of these little videos, I've left it there deliberately. It's not me being lazy, I promise. But every time I finish a video, I hover to the top, there's a little stop button, and you'll find out why in a moment. So with screen recording, if I want to record something, I go to a new slide, I go to Insert, I go to Screen Recording, okay? And it allows me to basically, it drops PowerPoint away and it shows me what's on the background. I select an area, so you can see my screen goes a little bit grey. I draw a box around the bit of my desktop that I want to capture. All right, I can then turn my audio on, so I can talk over it and record my audio for one, or I can just record my screen. So it gives me 3 seconds, and now everything that I'm doing on my desktop is being recorded. So if you're paying for recording software, you don't need to use PowerPoint. Right? So I open up a document or a picture, a fairly common city. I'm sure all of you know where that is. Move that window around, and when I'm happy, I hover at the top of the screen and I press that stop button. And what happens is it then embeds that video inside my PowerPoint slide. So if I play that now, you're going to see that there's my mouse moving around. That's exactly what I just did a second ago when I was recording. Here's our image opening up. That image is now saved, captured, and stored inside PowerPoint. No problem at all. I can also trim it. So if I was mucking around for the first minute and the last minute, I can cut the ends of the video off to make sure that there's only a bit in the middle that I want to get. It'll trim that video down, and that's what's going to play inside our thingy. And if I right click on the picture, I can save media as, which means that I can save it as an MP3 file, sorry, an MP4 file. We could save it as an AVI, as a video format file that we can then lift and move over into a different video editing piece of software. We can continue to do stuff. So I can use it elsewhere if I need to. So if you are paying for like screen capturing software, if you've ever wondered how you can do a screen capture, that is actually a pretty decent little screen capture. In fact, all of the videos that I'm creating in this slide deck were created using that method. Okay. Last one for PowerPoint, anyway, is the idea of Cameo. Now, if you've used a lot of video conferencing platforms, so the Zooms, the Teams, things like that, you may be aware that sometimes you're watching something, someone shares their screen, and then all the faces disappear. You don't know who's really talking at that point. You've just got a screenshot up, depending on how you've got your environment laid out, obviously. Sometimes also when you're doing a screen recording, it might be that your PowerPoint slide's really dull. Oh, sorry, yeah, the slide deck's really dull, and you're relying on your energetic, enthusiastic personality to engage people and keep them engaged with your slides. The issue you have in a Teams environment is that you disappear, right? Potentially, your face isn't there anymore. They can hear your voice, they can see what you're displaying. But there is a way within PowerPoint of actually overcoming that. It's called Cameo. So you go Insert, and you insert a cameo. And what this is like a little bubble that contains a capture of your webcam directly within your PowerPoint slide. So here I'm kind of inserting it. There's various frames that we can put around it, squares, and blur it out and kind of make it disappear and seep into the background if you want to. It will be aware the camera's obviously turned off there, as you can see, but I can go and click on that and choose between my different webcams. So I'm going to choose my proper webcam. I turn it on, and then obviously in presenter mode, I am now kind of embedded within my PowerPoint slide. So when I share this and I present in the Teams environment, or I'm doing a screen recording or anything like that, then actually I'm always going to be sitting down in the bottom right-hand corner and visible and available, so that actually I can talk and people can engage and hopefully get my enthusiasm. So, so yeah, really key thing, an important one. Hopefully you go and explore that. Right. Whirlwind tour. That was just the start of PowerPoint. Okay, we've got lots of bits and pieces to talk more about that. We're going to do that as we continue this series, but hopefully there's a few things in there that you didn't know about. You can go away and try. I I want to introduce you to a new piece of software. I say new, it's not really new. It's called Planner. Okay. Now, I've talked about to-do lists before. I've talked about the fact that when I'm sat in Outlook and I flag emails, they come up in my to-do in my Office 365 to-do list. That's great. That's just kind of my personal area for me to track my own activity and my own tasks. The polar opposite of that is something called Microsoft Project, right? Where effectively is a fully blown project management solution. And Planner really sits in the middle. So if to-do is all about me and my tasks, Planner is about my team's tasks. It's all about everything that everyone else around me needs to do. I need to be able to assign certain tasks to individuals. I want to keep track of it. And that's where Planner comes in. The next step on from that, and it's great for organizing kind of activities, tasks, projects within your business. It's pretty good at organizing that in a third party organization as well, to be fair. But when you're breaking into the world of dealing with, I don't know, multi-million pound building projects, then you're probably realistically going to be going using Microsoft Project in the full project management suite. Okay, this isn't a fully blown project management suite, but perfect for managing teams, managing tasks, managing activities. So how do we get started with Planner? So within this little section, we're only really going to cover 3 bits. All right. So how do we create a planner board, editing and assigning tasks, and how we view this planner in different ways. So where do we get started? Well, go log into 365. Go and click on your waffle. It probably isn't in your app to start with. So click on more apps. It might be in here somewhere. If it's not, click on all apps. Scroll down a bit, you'll find Planner. Okay. Now the reason it disappears, the more you use it, then it will be at the front of your screens. But the chances are you haven't used it, so it's probably buried away somewhere. What we're going to do, we're going to create a new plan, and I get a bunch of different options, right? If you've used things like Trello, this is going to be familiar to you. But I'm going to create here a new project management plan. I'm going to give it a name of project plan. I'm going to choose a team of people that I'm going to collaborate with in this plan. So I'm choosing one of my Microsoft Teams environments, and I click create. And it goes away and it creates me this board, all right? And this board contains what we call buckets and tasks. So each of these columns we consider a bucket, and each of the tiles and the tabs inside those buckets we consider tasks. There's lots of things we can do in here. So to start with, before we dig into tasks and what they do, just want to very high level show you what you can do around some of the bits and pieces. So easy as adding a task in a particular bucket at the top. We'll come back to that in a second. But if we jump over to the 3 little dots at the top and we just jump into the plan details, you can see that there's some little aesthetic things we can do around this plan. If we're sharing it with other people, we can put wallpapers, we can make this thing look a bit more visually engaging. So I'm going to pick something, maybe that's our company theme, whatever. I can also control who has access to this planner and can see all these tasks that we're collaboratively going to work on, public, anyone in my organization, potentially even externally, or private, only members that I dictate. And then there's the usual notification stuff. So, which is when someone changes something, do I want it to ping up? So, but the end goal here is that we're going to have lots and lots of tasks across lots and lots of people, and we want to get that organized. So we create buckets. A bucket in this sense is at the top there. You can see the first kind of column says initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling. These ideas are buckets, right? These are things, these are phases that maybe are going to go through this project. It doesn't need to be a project. It could just be a big brainstorming exercise. It could just be a call out campaign from the sales team. It might just be a load of things that a group of people need to do. That's the way to think of it. Underneath the initiating piece, we've got tiles, and within those tiles, you can see little circles with tasks in. These are checklists, all right, and they've got little labels at the top. So let's dig in and talk a little bit about what those tasks actually do. So we can see a slightly wider view now. And by the way, you can have an unlimited number of buckets. You just go to the end and create a new bucket, and these tasks move on. If I go and click into some of these tasks, you're going to see lots of different options underneath it. So let's go into this one. And you can see that the first thing I can do, we've got a task to identify goals and objectives, and I can assign that to somebody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on assign. It's going to give me a list of people that I can choose from. I'm going to type someone's name in. I'm going to choose John here, no problem at all. So we'll select John. What bucket's it in? What progress has been made on this task at the moment? Obviously, at the moment, it's nothing. How urgent is it? When, probably more importantly, is when do we need to start, when do we need the task to start and ultimately finish, right? We want to put a time scale around getting this done. So we're going to put some time frames in there. And maybe this is something we need to do every week. Maybe it's something we just do once. Maybe it's something that's happening every month. I don't know. You can choose a recurrence. But the important bit there is the checklist, probably. You know, I can put some comments in, but I can put a checklist. These are the things that we need to do within this task. And I'm going to add one in there, another task. That'll do. So no problem at all. I can also add documents to this. So attach Word documents, PowerPoint slides, and anything else. In fact, Planner even suggests some that might be relevant to this task that you can find from my documents area. But you can see now that that other little task we added is on the tile. Bottom right hand corner, it's got John's initials there because that's been assigned to John. And the takeaway from this is that John's actually got that as a to-do now. The other bit to talk about are these little things at the top. You can see there's some little colors and bits and pieces, and you can actually add labels. Okay, so another way of filtering these tasks. It starts with just a bunch of different colors, all right? Loads of different labels with different colors. When you edit a label, you can actually type over the name of the label. So maybe I'm going to call this finance. Okay, so now I've got a finance label for this task. Why we might do that, we'll come to in a second. Maybe I'm going to dig in and find another one, and it's going to be senior management related. So we'll go and change the line. We'll change that to SMT. No problem at all. And we're going to give it that label. So I can give it more than one label. All right. So maybe this task is relevant to the finance team, and actually senior management needs some visibility. I might not have assigned it to those people, but if they come in and look at this board, it might be the only things that they care about looking at, shall we say. So that's great. We can create lots of tasks. We can add checklists into it. We can upload documents. We can, maybe they're quality control documents at certain phases in a project. Maybe they're diagrams, pictures, design ideas. Maybe they're instructions for doing stuff. We can put that in the comments. We can create a bunch of checklists. No problem at all. So you can see that I can fill a lot of information into a task and then assign it to somebody. When I assign it to somebody, they get that task. It goes in their Outlook calendar. It becomes something that pings up in Outlook. They need to get that done by X date. It drives throughout the entire Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Everyone's being driven around the tasks that we're setting aside Planner, but Planner is a single place to go and visit and understand what's going on in a wider view. However, if you imagine we had hundreds and hundreds of tasks within this Planner, I don't want to be scrolling through all these buckets. If I have 50 different tasks there, and I scroll down the initiating piece, how do I know which one's relevant, right? How do I know which one's right for me? Well, maybe I'd use that labeling idea, but how do we actually filter it? That's where views come in. So within a view, we've got a bunch of different ways of skinning this board and understanding kind of what we've got. So the first thing to talk about is grouping. So at the moment, we're grouped by bucket, but we can also group by a bunch of different options there. Maybe we want to look at which tasks are assigned to which people. Nice and simple here. Pretty much everything's unassigned, other than the one thing we moved to John Neal. Now I opened that task up and physically assigned him, but it's much simpler than that in Planner. All I need to do really is just grab a tile and drag it over to Copilot. Copilot's now assigned. That's just sent Copilot a task. He's now responsible for that task. I can drag that one over to Copilot. I'm going to drag that one over to John Neal. And I can continue to move that in the future. I can shift stuff around. We can view it by progress. What's not started, what's in progress, and what's completed. Obviously, you'd be expecting those people responsible for the task to jump in and update the progress and status. What about the due date? Okay, what's due this week? What's in the future? And things that have no dates on them at all. What's by label? So again, if I was a member of the senior management team, I'm not worried about everything else. I just want to look at that senior management team bucket, and I can see all the tasks relevant to that. And then finally by priority. So what's urgent, what's important, what's medium, and I can create different urgencies if required. So as you can see, I can just shift stuff around. If something's now urgent, I've just moved that over to the urgent thing. Done. Took me half a second to totally shift the project plan, and everything's being sorted out. I can then go back to the view by bucket and get an overarching view of what's going on. Now there are more bits to it. We can just go back and look at it in a very simple kind of spreadsheet tabular format where I've got a list by clicking on grid at the top by listable tasks, who's doing it, when they're due, progress, priority, etc. Go to the board view, which is what we started with. We've also got charts. Gives me some more analytics and data and information about which tasks are unassigned, what's assigned to who, what progress are at, what's left outstanding, etc. And we can also have a calendar view. So once we've got more times in there and bits and pieces, that calendar will fill out. We only put time in for one task, which is why there's only one thing at the bottom. But as I fill the times in, I'm just going to get a calendar view of all the activities, and I can print that, export it, share it, whatever you might need to do. Have it up on a live board somewhere potentially. So really, really powerful tool, right? When you start thinking about what you can do with that, if you want to work collaboratively as a team, and you want, as a manager, maybe within your organization, you want to have visibility of the tasks and bits and pieces that your team are doing, then you can use a planner, right? Put it all into a planner. Maybe those tasks are from a sales perspective to call 20 new opportunities. Maybe it's from a manufacturing section. There's a quality control process that needs to be gone through. Maybe every time you create a new thing, you create a new planner or a new item, you're going to create a new planner. It's got a bunch of tasks that need to be completed. Well, you can duplicate plans. So you just create a new empty plan, right? And you do that whole process again. So really, really powerful. Great ways of kind of manipulating and twisting the view. Really easy to use by dragging and dropping tasks and things into people's names or physically into different buckets and bits and pieces. That concept is what is known as a Kanban board, and it's very often used in some things like software development. They follow a very agile framework, so effectively things shift, things change all the time. It's not a very it's not waterfall. You just develop something, it falls off a cliff, and you've created it. This is all about being able to be more agile in your business, being able to react and make changes. But the key thing is, as soon as you change it, and I move a task to John Neal, he gets an email, he gets a notification, he gets information about what it is. He clicks on a link and it takes him to that task in Planner. He's got the information that he needs and off he goes. So much, much more effective than me sending him a big long-winded email, trying to copy a load of stuff, pin it all, attach things to an email, send it over, hope he's got all the information. It's all about centralizing your data and taking people to the data rather than the data to them. Right, so just to summarize that then, creating a planner board, it's pretty quick, wasn't it? Editing and assigning tasks, again, pretty quick and easy. Different views, really, really powerful. And if you use any tools like Monday.com, Asana, Notion, Trello, ClickUp, there's loads, okay? Think about the fact that actually Planner does all the stuff those pieces of software do, or at least a good percentage of it. So are you paying for those applications? Because you're getting that inside your Office 365 environment already. That isn't a paid for product. That comes as part of your 365 plan. Okay, so if you're spending anywhere between 5-15 quid a user for any of these applications, then maybe look at what you're using those applications for. Because the truth is that I'll be willing to bet that Planner will do quite a lot of what you need it to do, and all your data is being stored inside Microsoft 365 as well. So it's great when you get to the AI conversation and all your information is in one place. So bear that in mind. Real potential cost saving piece of software there that very few people know about. Right, let's talk about OneNote. You'll be glad to know last piece of it. So I appreciate we're going at pace. So I apologise now for my drawing skills through this section, but we'll all have a good laugh about it in a moment. Right, OneNote. If you've not heard of OneNote, OneNote is a digital notebook. Okay, so if you're used to going to see customers, or you keep yourself organised by creating lists, and you've got your own notebook, it goes everywhere with you, you may love this if you are a computer lover, shall we say. So what does a notebook do? Well, there's a few things. Notebooks have sections and pages. We'll talk about that in a second. You can do drawing. So if you've got a device that actually has a touch screen, maybe you've got a pen, then you can draw all over it and handwrite all over it. You can turn that stuff into text. We'll talk about that a bit in a second. Password protecting parts of that notebook, because you can obviously share your notebook with other people, but you might want to keep some of it private. And there's even an OCR function built into OneNote. So let's go through those. So as you can see here, we've got 3 notebooks at the top left-hand side. Okay, so Scott tailor-made physical science notebook we use for education demos. Demo notebook is what we're using today. When I expand the demo notebook, I have this thing called sections. So here we've got a new section. I'm just going to put a name in for my new notebook. Maybe I'm going to put my senior management stuff in. So all of my senior management notes are going to go in this section. Maybe I'm going to have another section called potentially engineering. All right, and I'm going to put everything to do with my engineering role within the business underneath my engineering section. So imagine this like a folder with, you remember the kind of days of having different colored files inside it, so you could segment and little kind of labels. This is the same concept. One big folder, that's your notebook, sections inside it, and within the sections we've got lots of pages. So here underneath my senior management section, I'm creating a meetings page. Maybe I'm going to collect my notes around my meetings. So I'm going to add a page. I've got a few various meetings that I'm involved in. One would obviously be the ops meeting, another one potentially the senior management meeting. So I'm going to go and create effectively 3 pages. Problem is, I want it to be underneath meetings really, because they're all to do with meetings. So I right click on it and I make it a sub page. Okay, and that means that it effectively now sits underneath the top page. And this can carry on to some degree, but now I can close meetings down and open them back up again and keep myself very organized. So all of my notes, this big white canvas on the right hand side is where I can draw, I can type, I can put text in, I can drag information, copy and paste things from my clipboard on there. I can sit in a meeting and type notes, whatever I need to do. I can even record the audio around me. So actually, if I'm sat in a meeting, I can hit record and it will record the audio in my meeting and store it inside this OneNote for me. But the bit I want to kind of get across here is the organizational ability. If you are very keen to stay organized, which hopefully many people are, then you've got your notebooks. Then underneath your notebooks, you've got sections. Underneath your sections, you've got pages. And underneath pages, you can even have subpages. So very useful for organizing your notes, your thoughts, and all the bits and pieces you would typically use a notebook for. We, in the educational side of the world, this goes even further, okay, with a really enhanced version of this notebook software, Class Notebook. We'll talk about that in the seminar next week. So if you are in the educational side, we've got an educational seminar next week. We will be demoing Class Notebook and bits and pieces inside that. Drawing. This is the bit where you can all laugh at me. So sticking on the theme of motorbikes and bikes, perhaps what we want to do is we've got a bike design planning session, right? And we need to draw the new amazing blueprint for the new bike we're going to create. So I'm going to go in and draw a circle, perfect circle, obviously. You're holding shift down. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that, I'm going to duplicate it, copy it, drag it over. There we are, I've got 2 wheels. It's a good start for a bike. What we can then do is go and grab the pen. Now, bear in mind, please, everybody, that I am doing this with a mouse rather than a pen. So, but as you can see, as I draw a line, it will kind of understand that I've drawn a line and make it straight for me in many cases, all right? You can see here I'm going to draw a circle for the saddle. It's not a very good circle, but it pings it into a circle. It's understanding what I'm trying to draw. All right, put some handlebars in. Let's make it really good looking. Let's go and give it a red seat. All right, I appreciate it looks like my daughter drew it, but it was with a mouse. All right, so let me off, please. So there we are. We've got a design for a bike. No worries at all. So you get the idea. We can draw all over this. Brilliant for no. Imagine it being a big whiteboard, all right? And we've got stuff all over the whiteboard. And then if I've got a pen, this is a lot easier than with a mouse. I can then sit there and write. So I'm just writing the word bike. And to show you the functionality, once I do that, if I actually go and select that area of my canvas, this little ink to text option pops up. And click on that and it converts it into text. So take that further. Imagine you've written a whole load of handwriting, you've written a big passage of text. You can select it all as long as your handwriting is fairly neat and convert it into text, and it will just turn it all into text for you. So very, very powerful. And then you can jump in and use various other things like, you know, again, funky rainbow pens if that's really important to you. But ultimately, highlighters is probably more important on the business side of the world. But we've got things like rulers in there. We can change the background. We can put lined paper in there if we wanted to. So you're not used, you know, if you write down at an angle like that, the background can change to lined paper. So you can actually handwrite over lined paper. So if you do have a device that has the capability to write on, and don't forget that that isn't just a Windows device, right? OneNote is an app that you can install on the iOS platform. You can have it on your Apple, your iPads, on your Android devices, etc., etc. So the OneNote and the 365 ecosystem, including the Planner app, including OneNote and Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the other things that we're used to using, are all available across all sorts of devices, all right? So if you do have a device with a pen, absolutely give this a go, right? It's great for sitting there writing. Right, so that's great. Now, we talked about drawing that picture. Maybe that's a bit of intellectual property, right? I don't want anybody stealing the idea of coming up with a bike with a red seat because, you know, it's going to take over the world. So we need to make sure that it doesn't actually get stolen and taken away from us, and our genius idea. So what we might want to do is I can obviously share my notebook. I can share it out with lots of people in the same way I'd share anything else in 365, right? We right click up on the share option and share my OneNote. So what we're going to do, show you here, is my bike design is top secret. Don't want anybody to know about it. Well, what I can do is I can right click on a section and I can password protect that section. All right, great. So let's do that. So I set a password on the right-hand side. Really important bit at the bottom there, always a good sign when you see something like this that says if you lose or forget the password, OneNote cannot recover your data. That's a really good thing from security, all right? That means that even Microsoft can't get your data back, which means it's properly encrypted. So don't forget your password, otherwise you'll lose all your data inside it. But ultimately, once I've password protected it, I can go and share my notebook, all right? And it will then allow me to kind of throw up a sharing screen, and that will, hopefully, in a second, it will allow me to then go and choose people within my organization. Very familiar sharing screen. Hopefully you're used to using that within the 365 environment. I can share that with other colleagues, but they wouldn't be able to get into that bike design section unless they knew the password that perhaps I have or have not given them, okay? Very important. Right, you'll be glad to know you've done really, really well. We're 45 minutes in or so, and the last piece that we're going to show you is just the OCR functionality within OneNote. So I've got an empty document here, or a blank OneNote. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and jump online, and we're going to go and find a picture, but importantly, a picture that's got a load of text in it. So this is a PDF document, okay? So I'm going to screenshot this PDF document, and I'm going to capture a picture of that information. Once I've done that, that's great. I've now got a picture. The issue is I want the text out of it. Okay, so I'm going to paste it into OneNote. Now I can't highlight and select that text because it's part of the picture. Okay, but what I can do is right click on it, and I can go down to effectively capture text from image. And then when I press Control V and paste it, the text will come out. All right, and so it will read all of the text out of the image, and it basically does this OCR exercise where it steals it. Now you can see sometimes in OneNote, you can move things around all over the place. They end up with little boxes. What I've just done there is zoomed out because I'm trying to drag it around. There's too much on my screen. If you just zoom out or like scroll out on your mouse, or however you might choose to do it on your screen, there's a little scroll bar on the bottom as well. It will zoom right out, and you can use a really big, wide, unlimited canvas. So you can draw in on one side, you have a block of text on the other. Once I've grabbed the text out of my picture, I've pasted it, I can then take a segment of the data out or the text out that I want. I can then format that, highlight it, make it bold, make it red, do whatever I want to do with it in OneNote, write all over it, draw pictures on it, highlight it. So very, very powerful OCR functionality within OneNote as well, okay? Right, you'll be glad to know that we're just going to summarize and you're almost there. So we're actually going to finish hopefully a little bit early. But in a nutshell, then, OneNote, your digital notebook, obviously notebooks, sections, pages, nested pages. You can write, you can copy and paste, use it as your scrapbook, use it as an ideas book, use Pinterest. Great, just go and copy stuff from the internet and paste it in. Well, maybe I shouldn't encourage you to do that, but you get my point. Drawing all over it. If you've got pens, and you can choose different colors and different styles of pen and calligraphy pen, all sorts of bits and pieces in there. Password protecting certain sections of your document, which is key. And then we've got text from images. So if you've got an image with lots of text in it or bits of text in it, you want to extract that. You don't want to sit there typing it all in. Take a photo of it. Take a photo of it, send it over to OneNote, paste it in and turn it in. It's basically an OCR function for you straight away. So what's similar to OneNote if you don't use it? Again, OneNote is free. It's part of your Microsoft 365 licensing. You've already got it. You're already paying for it. So if you are paying for Evernote, Notion, Zoho, GoodNotes, various other online notebooking tools, you've got to ask yourself a question of whether or not you need it. Is there any functionality in there that OneNote can't deliver? I'll be surprised because OneNote is pretty powerful. So again, another option there for you to save some money within your business, within your organization potentially. So check that out. Definitely play with it. Remember, you can use it on the go. I use it on my phone all the time. I'm on a customer site, take photos, snapshots, things like that, store it in my OneNote, come back, and it's my scrapbook. I don't think I would actually be able to do my job as effective as I do without something like OneNote. So really make use of it. Great for recording, dictation, all sorts of things. So powerful. And we will revisit this in another webinar when we talk more about some of the other things that we can do within it. Right. So where do we find out more about some of the things that we talked about? Obviously, there's always Microsoft training. We talk about these things all the time. Microsoft have got a wealth of stuff available online using bits and pieces that are available at learn.microsoft.com and also just in support pages as a whole. Tailor-made technologies, webinars, blogs. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to tell you about lots of these things. We also have things like our portal. So if you log into our portal, we've got a whole bunch of kind of guides, documents, videos, bits and pieces where where we kind of guide you through some of the stuff. So if you are a customer of TaylorMade, you'll be aware of our portal system. When you log into that, there's learning in the right-hand corner. In there's a whole bunch of stuff for your staff to be trained on, to understand how to use the Office software, how to use some of the tools and platforms that are available within the Office 365 suite as a whole. And then obviously we've got various courses and bits and pieces. We do these webinars all the time. I'm sure you're all getting bored of me now. We're going to switch up and try and get somebody else to do one soon. So, but we have got two coming up, sadly, both involving me. We've got one next week regarding education. So if you are from the education sector, and you'll be aware that I do a lot of work in the education sector as a whole anyway. So we're going to be focusing on things like Class Notebook. We're looking at Teams and Reading Coach and more reading system bits and pieces like that, Immersive Reader, how to use Teams in the education environment. It is very different in the education environment to what it looks like in the business world, and how we actually get analytics and study of the students and their performance. So we're going to do a whole webinar about that stuff. And then next month, I believe, we've got our webinar around Power BI. It's not just Power BI, it's about data analytics, right? It's about how we're driving your business's data into insights that allow you to make really informed decisions about what you do within your business, okay? So the data, the information that you store, probably data you don't even know about, just about activities, things that are being collected in the background by your IT systems. How do we leverage that information to understand how your users work? How do we understand how to make you more profitable? What processes are failing and falling over? How do we streamline some of that stuff? Power BI is one of the tools we're using. So if you've got an interest in Power BI, I definitely invite you to come and look at it. But we are talking about data analytics and the impact that using your data and unlocking your data can have on the business. So I encourage you to do that. And thirdly, it wouldn't be a webinar if I didn't say the word Copilot, okay, and AI. So it is me after all. So obviously you can go into Edge, you can go and click on Copilot, and you can ask it how to do this stuff, right? And it will come back and tell you, hopefully, how to do it. Hopefully not as interesting as I can tell you, but there you go. So thank you very much for your time. I invite you all to fire any questions at me. I will try and answer them. As you can imagine, it's a pretty wide topic to talk about. If you are happy, you've got no more questions, you are free to go and enjoy the sun because it is a glorious day outside. If not, if you haven't got any questions, please fire away. But if you're bored of me now, you can do a runner. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And if you want to know more, you want us to come and obviously speak to you, go through some of this stuff, we're always more than happy to come down and visit you. All right? Also, if anybody's got any ideas of what you'd like us to cover in the next one, then please throw ideas at us. We're always open to tailoring this stuff. So, if the person you share a bucket with hasn't got Planner, do they get an install link? No, so it's not installed. So that's the key thing. It's all web based. So it's just you just literally share the link with them. They'll get a read-only view of that planner, that task, anything like that. You don't need to install anything. It is purely cloud-based. OneNote is purely cloud-based, just the same way that Word is purely cloud-based, but they both also have their own installable version of that bit of software. So you can have OneNote installed on your PC. Performance tends to be a little bit faster, a little bit quicker. But in terms of the web-based version, yeah, you just share a web link, and it's very much like the other cloud-based kind of project management tools. Any more questions? Wow, very happy with that. Loads of people still sat there, so I don't want to hang up yet. So if you've got any more questions, please feel free to fire away. As always, you're always welcome to kind of fire a question at us via emails, reach out to your account manager for an existing customer, or reach out to the sales team or anybody like that if you're interested in exploring that a bit further. Okay, no more questions. Okay, well then I think we'll let everybody go home. So go and enjoy the sun. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. All the best. Till the next time. Bye-bye.